Let's talk about different forms of astrology as our lesson of the weekend, okay? Just sit back and get comfy. This is gonna go a lot of places, but I swear it's gonna circle up. So many times you guys ask me like which type of astrology is correct. There are so many types, and I don't believe any of them are wrong. It depends on what you are looking for, what you are calculating for, what you're working for. Most commonly, what you see on this app is tropical astrology, and this is where I fit in. This focuses on the personality, more of the psychological nitty gritty, and how we evolve, how we develop. Horary astrology focuses on providing clear, concise answers of inquiries about a variety of topics such as relationships, finances, career, or personal issues. This is one of the older forms of astrology. It's about like making a chart for like the question of the exact, like a horoscope for the question for its exact time. Draconic astrology, I haven't seen a lot of that on here, but I remember in the 2020 conjunction, I saw a lot of it popping up. Draconic only focuses on the soul and its path on a spiritual journey, spiritual lessons, spiritual completion. There is a whole sect on its own of medical astrology, focuses on health, diagnosing potential issues based on the positions of the planets and zodiac signs. Vedic astrology is sometimes referred to as sidereal. This is another one you see a lot on the app, and everyone says, you look different to this? Is this wrong or right? Which one's more accurate? Again, it depends on what you're looking for. Vedic astrology focuses very much on karma, dharma, and spiritual growth. It is very predictive. Like this means this, as opposed to my tropical astrology, which is more like this feels and evolves into this. Mundane astrology. Now this one focuses on the influence of the celestial bodies of world events, societies, and nations. It's used to predict or analyze large-scale phenomena. When I do the history and study and pattern stuff, it falls under this. This is my hobby. This is like my little baby. Electional astrology. Okay, I bet you know what this is. There are astrologers who just work in the election field. I wanted to talk about it with this time with everything that has happened recently with the election versus astrology. I've always said language is so important in astrology. Finding the reader who speaks your language. Language is hard. Words have different meanings for different people. And I think that's a lot of the problem with astrology is figuring out what words mean, what language we're using. Take the 8th house, for example. It can mean so many things. Money, death, rebirth, all of that. Some people get very upset if you say death is a part of this house, that's incorrect. But like I've said, for famous people, I do see the 8th house as an indicator. The 8th house is the house of shared resources. Well, what's your definition of a resource? Do we consider the same thing resources? Do we share the same thing? Do we consider energy the same way? That's why there's a movement to work so hard to take the language back, because astrology has been taken by the billionaires. That's why we have kind of rough language. Patriarchal, colonistic influences, definitely. That's why you have a sect of people working to work through that. And that's where I think the whole thing about Kamala and whether she would win or not, that's where we get down to the nitty gritty of language. And I've been watching a lot of different astrologers, and I've been seeing the different way they all spoke. I've seen some say she would win by popular vote, or I said that it looks like she wins, but she's not supported in all the way. I've seen a lot of people say Trump will not be inaugurated. I have seen so many different versions of saying the same thing, but also different things. This is also when I think we get into like free will. I do not believe your chart is just your chart and it's your destiny and it says that you're this because of this and you're going to do X, Y, and Z. I believe it's a map for you to make the best use of this energy. Take the Magician card in tarot. What does it mean? It means you have all the tools, right? You have all the elements of magic, okay? Fire, water, air, earth. But what's the last step? All of these elements create spirit, but we need what? You have to do the magic. You have to do the work. This is a very big part of astrology, okay? Of all magic. It takes you. It takes you making choices and moving. Astrology needs to read a lot like weather forecasts. We talk about like the numbers, like the possibilities. Everyone also needs to know right now that the astrology in the sky says that we aren't seeing things clearly. That Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, like look at this meme I found. This sums it up a lot. Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, next year they're going to be at the 29th degree for a bit together while the node is in Pisces. Truths are coming out, but we're not there yet. We are still in Delulu world. You guys remember this queen, right? Even though that book was written by a Mormon who definitely believes in predestiny and all this stuff, Alice Cullen in the Twilight series, the future always changed depending upon the moves that the person made. There are multiple outcomes. Honestly, there are multiple dimensions going on right now. And what have I taught you all? Your chart is just not your chart while you're a meat basket, while you're a physical person. It goes on. Remember we looked at Tupac? He's still healing, even though he ain't here. I'm saying all this to say, after the big hubbub, I saw a lot of astrologers jump on other astrologers saying, you can't say this. You said this wrong. It's unethical to predict election. Now, everyone has their own ethics. I'm not going to be in on that. But like, I feel like this is where predictions are okay. Not in the health. Like it drives me crazy when I scroll on TikTok and I see all these like pendulum people answering if people are going to be pregnant or die soon. I'm like, oh my God! But we all have different ethics. I don't think talking about the election was unethical. I think we needed to talk about it. I think it brought forth exactly what we needed to talk about. So the big thing with Kamala's chart is that she has Saturn in Pisces and she has Chiron in Pisces and Saturn is over that. And so many people were like, oh God, duh. She wasn't when. But let me talk to you in the different ways that could manifest. Everyone saw her moving up in some way in authority in job, but also maybe not complete authority, someone over. But that could have manifested in a lot of ways. It could have manifested in her winning a popular vote and healing her own self. It could have manifested in her doing what she needed to do to be pushed ahead and work. With what came out yesterday, it looks like she was a prop and she was used in a certain way, but she knows about it and somehow she will move further. Anyway, my whole point is there's so many different ways to interpret that Saturn over Chiron transit in the 10th house. And they're all right. And they're all possible. All of them. And that's why you should look at predictions like a weather forecast or like with the view of Alice Cullen. Also back to language. How much can we predict or how much can we know if everything's around us saying, you aren't seeing the truth? Like, this isn't real. We aren't telling you the truth. We are hiding. We are gaslighting. How can you predict if you don't know all the players? And I spoke about Trump's chart with Uranus on the last moon. And now I realize that Uranus in the 9th house, it was the realization of him openly working with foreign countries, especially Putin. And Elon, the tech guy, also getting into business in 9th house, foreign affairs. My point is, I think everyone did the best with everything that was given to us and shown to us. The only thing I didn't like was other astrologers being like, oh my God, see, they're crap. I can't believe it. You're such idiots. Because you know what? Us astrologers are going to have to stick together, especially if like these witch trials come about. I didn't make a prediction per se, but I don't know how you couldn't see or agree with all the things, or also understand really how time and everything works. Yeah, most of the people on here do not specialize in electional astrology. I don't know if real Lori Astrologer did, or if she was just a poli-sci person who studies astrology. But it has its own category. Most of the people you see on here are doing tropical, which is about the self-development. But what if the self is no longer developing? Okay, what if we are not getting all those tidbits? Anyway, that's school for today, okay? I love you all. We're gonna be fine.